Kirkland Signature Peaches.
Are they this week's sponsor?
I'm requesting them to be a sponsor. This one's for free. Next time it'll be paid, hopefully. They're really good. Yellow clean peaches and extra light syrup. Fancy grade. As opposed to the non-fancy grade.
Of course.
Also, a little update for me. I caught a mouse in my house. So hopefully it's not a whole lot of them around. But found little tiny evidence of one. Trap out. Got it last night. So
congratulations.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, this is just a random thing. It has nothing to do with marketing or branding. But I was in a little bit of a fender bender on my anniversary. We were going to go on a little bowling date because we haven't been bowling in forever. And we were like about to turn right into the parking lot of the bowling alley. And traffic was stopped for some reason. And somebody hit the car behind me and they hit us. And it was awesome.
Oh, it was a multiple involved, huh?
It was a bump. Yeah.
Dang.
But I didn't hit the people in front of me, so I was the end of it. I was the end of the train, which was good. Maybe this is a little bit of a branding thing. Volkswagen, it held together. Like,
there you go.
The license plate's bent up worse than anything else. So
sweet. What car hit you? What brand was that?
The car that hit me was an old Chevy pickup. And then the car that hit the pickup was an old Chevy Lumina.
When I was in high school, I had this big old, I don't know if you know what a Lincoln Town Car looks like.
Oh, yeah.
A boat. Like, it was just like a hand-me-down. My parents had got it from somewhere for like a few hundred, but it was a piece of crap. But it got me to school and back. And it was just made of like solid metal. They don't make cars like that anymore.
Yeah.
And we got rear-ended it wasn't like super bad, but we probably going like 25, 30 miles an hour. It was decently hard. And all it did was kind of barely dent down like my back bumper just a little bit. You couldn't even tell if you didn't look close. And the dude who hit me was like it was like a Honda Prelude or something, like some plastic rimmed car. Like the whole front of his car fell off. Like he had to like take his grill like off the road. And so I felt bad for him because he hit me. He was liable. His car was way more destroyed, and our car was so crappy and not worth any money that that was with the insurance, it counted our car as totaled because just the price of fixing that bumper and stuff was more than the car was worth. So we got a payout. So I got hit, hardly any damage, still worked fine, and we made like $2,000 off the accident or something like that.
You got paid for the crash. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, you said you have something sort of related to branding now. What's on your mind?
I've got a few little things that just have popped up recently that I wanted to throw your way. One was an interesting local commercial that I saw the other day, but everybody in Salt Lake knows Shaneco. Shaneco.com. It's like a jewelry store, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen their like jewel ad on TV? It's the first time I've seen it, but it was a play on like Candy Crush or, those Bejeweled games where you have to match 3 and then they disappear or whatever. And they did that, but with like different diamonds and gems. And then it like ended with just one pretty one and then it turns into a diamond ring and it's nice. I thought it was really clever. It was like somebody was swiping through it but it was with like images of crystals.
Just a simple idea. It doesn't have to be over explained. It's just kind of something that people can relate to in the moment and way to be remembered in a different way. I like it.
I also saw another ad that I liked a lot. I was curious if you've seen it. Maybe I'm just in like ad mode because of the Super Bowl episode. I saw a really good Airbnb ad. However you feel about the company. I thought it was clever. It was nostalgic. It was like this. The play-by-play is like there's a phone ringing, but no one's picking it up. And every time the phone rings, the screen changes to like a different photo of someone on vacation. Mm-hmm. Have you seen this?
I've seen this one, yeah.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Yeah. I thought it was clever. The photos are kind of lo-fi and
Hmm.
nostalgic esque, but it made you feel like good about not picking up the phone and relaxing. There's something satisfying when you're on vacation about not picking up that phone call. And that the way they did that ad really hit it, at least for me. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. It's like naturally, it's like if on paper you could think that that ad would be like, okay, well, are they going to consider themselves the one making the phone call or the one missing the phone call? Where do you see yourself? And naturally, we want to see ourselves as the one that are off in these amazing destinations and having
Mm-hmm.
vacation. So it's like you don't think about, oh, it's annoying. They're answering the phone call. You're like, oh, I want to be missing my phone calls.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. It makes you choose your adventure sort of thing, and you're not going to choose to be the one making the phone call.
Yeah.
That's clever. I also am interested. I would love to know why they chose to do lo-fi images, like kind of grainy. It made me think of like photos that my aunt and uncle would bring back from their trip to Hawaii or something. Yeah, it felt very 90s.
I was talking recently with some people about um it's more about like design than branding overall, which is that's still related, but like there are some elements of a brand, like so you'll think about your brand or if you're building a brand and be like, what are our core like traits or our personality or like our tone and our voice, and you try to identify like how do we sound, how do we look, how do we feel with like human characteristics. You know, we're quirky, we're motivational, we're intense, we're you know, different words like
Yeah.
that, and then try to translate those into visual elements, because some things, some certain words make more sense and like to describe your messaging or the way you do business culturally, while some words are better to describe an actual visual representation, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
like you could be like, "Oh, we're honest," and what does honest look like visually? It's not as clear to like connect it to that. So I was talking with some people about, and this is just kind of when I say talking, I was kind of this is my opinion to them. I was like, I was like on my little philosophical soapbox. I think
You were
that
Don
there,
Drapering.
yeah,
You
I
were
was Don Drapering. I think
yes.
there are some brand aspects that I use the analogy of like a stage. There are some brand aspects that you put on stage that are the main focus, and some brand elements that set the stage or like are the stage. We were talking about working with trying to identify a brand identity that was about um, a focus on like winning, um, and having this idea of like seeking wins and chasing wins and celebrating wins and being a little bit competitive and going after wins. Um, and in doing so, we're like, well, I don't think that necessarily needs to be what's front and center on stage, so to speak, in our visual identity, because we're not trying to become like we're not looking for like have sports visuals or like a gladiator on the battlefield or like ways you'd actually win. We're not trying to do that. We just wanted to have some of the other things come through, like our creativity and artistic and things like other aspects of this brand that you can more readily put into a visual identity that we also like and resonate with. And doing that can then be a platform that says then our messaging and our business approach that is talking about like win, how can we help you win, things like that, that can then match with this visual identity. That doesn't detract from that, but you don't have to try to bake in literally every brand element into your visual identity. You need to kind of decide what are we, and then what aspects of that are best represented visually. And so I don't know if that made sense. I don't even know if maybe I'll break my own newfound rule in the future. But that's what I was thinking about today was yeah, there are some things that that's part of your brand. It can be, but that's not it doesn't have to be outright explicit in your visual identity sometimes. And I think sometimes people try to pack too much into that. Either it's too heavy-handed or too over the top in a certain direction, or you Frankenstein too many things into your visual identity, and then you just look unfounded and messy. So, anyways, I don't know what you think about
Wait,
that.
so are you saying? Well, hold on. Let me try. Are you saying either that the building blocks of your brand, the way you speak, and the different values that the brand holds, that does not every single one of those aspects has to be represented in the visual identity? Is that what you're saying? And that
Yes.
certain ones make more sense than others, and that's okay.
Yes, I'm also not saying that you absolutely should never have them all. There may be a case where like, oh, this all works
Sure.
pretty good. But yeah, I'm saying it doesn't need to be a hard and fast rule that like every little bit of our personality has to be reflected in our visual identity.
Would you say that like a brand's, the word we always used was core essence, like their true main value, does that need to be there in the visual identity?
I think so. I think so. And again, it's like it kind of semantics, like what's the difference between your core essence and your personality traits and your why, and like they're all related. But yeah, your core essence, I think we get an episode talking about what core essence is. But yeah, that I think should be the main thing that is coming through in your visual design, because your core essence should touch tangentially a few different a few different expressions of how that you can have that core essence in lots of different ways. When we work together, we always use Disney as an example, and magic is their core essence. But a roller coaster ride is very different from a movie, very different from a stuffed animal toy, like they're very different in how they deliver that. But they all try to have this sense of magic and wonder and attached to it. And so yeah, that's the challenge of a core essence, is like, yeah, this is what you want to do, and this is how you want to sound, and how do you bring that together? That's sometimes the challenge for brands, is identifying what that is that unites all these things. But yeah, I would say that should be represented.
So then how do you go about picking and choosing what pieces of your brand identity need to make it into the visual side of things?
I think you just kind of pointed out. I didn't use that discussion point with the people I was talking with today, but I think whatever that core essence is what needs to be the main thing. Now, whichever personality traits for your brand most closely and directly communicate a visual or suggest a visual style that connects to that core essence, great. They may be more represented, but the core essence needs to come through. And so, even more than I guess any one of your personality traits, but it shouldn't be separate from your personality traits. Otherwise, you don't have a good core essence of personality traits. Does that make sense? Like the core essence, build it around that. But it should also be related to your personality trait. Let's try to take an example. What's like a really strong brand has a really strong visual identity? Like specifically the visuals.
We could use our go-to,
Which is what?
Liquid Death.
Liquid Death? Okay. I haven't opened up their brand playbook and seen internally how they guide themselves, but what would you say let's do personality first. What are the personality traits, not just visually, the whole brand, what are the personality traits of Liquid Death?
I would describe them as they're kind of anarchic. They ignore conventional rules. So that's kind of what I mean by anarchic.
Mm-hmm.
I would say there's definitely and I guess this is almost the same thing, but there's like a punk rock vibe to everything that they do.
More punk rock, I'd say it's like metal. Like it's like
yeah.
Yeah.
So therefore their personality is probably it's abrasive.
It's humorous.
It's humorous. It's ridiculous.
One of their core values is like, and again, this is up for debate if they actually internally care that much about it, if it's a marketing plan, but they're all about like the sustainability and stuff, and how it's better for the environment to do what they're doing, and death to plastic and things like that, right? There's kind of a mission behind it. Those are very related, and they have a nice one of their strengths is they're not trying to do too many different things. So it helps them be focused. Their visual identity is mainly that punk rock, I said like heavy metal kind of look.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a humorous, funny, quirky look. I mean, it's quirky in the sense that it's funny because it's water. Like the fact that it's heavy metal water, I guess, is inherently funny. But just looking at the design itself, it's not humorous. It's not like it looks intense and serious and almost kind of dark.
Yeah.
Out of context, like if you just saw that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a hardcore tattoo someone would get.
Well, and you hear the stories of people thinking a Liquid Death can is like a beer or something. It's not,
yeah,
but it's
it
not,
looks a lot more grown up. So I don't know. I'm just thinking on the spot. This was not pre-planned. So now I'm taking and applying that logic. I don't know. I want to say that it shows evidence that it's true, except I'm not sure how to define the personality trait that is heavy metal. Like that's like a persona. And I'm trying to what personality am I describing there? Intense or like I guess you said anarchic. I guess maybe that's what it is. That's the one that I think comes through the strongest in the visual identity. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. In my mind, like if like environmental reasons are the reason why they're doing this, then that is not necessarily represented in their entire brand presentation. It's not. Like they have would you call it a slogan or a tagline, Death to Plastic, that they've used a lot, and they've done some anti-plastic campaigns. They did like the fluffy toys that were dying of plastic overload in the ocean thing, and like, but those seem more like campaigns to me than their brand essence. Well, and they are, right? Because they are trying to be disruptive, and they are trying to, I guess, do something good. But
yeah, that's. So I think maybe it is a good example then. Like if you were in the early days of trying to brand and plan for Liquid Death, and you're like, hey, we want to kind of do these things. We want to be edgy and unexpected and humorous, and kind of have this message. But we also want to be environmental and have this positive message and encouraging. And like, again, I'm just spitballing what maybe that conversation was like. If they would have tried to incorporate, let's be this, but also we want to make sure everyone knows that we're environmental, that like we're about, save the world kind of thing, like the planet, and have that message. That would have looked different if you tried to incorporate that into it somehow. And I'm not saying when to work, who knows what that would look like. Maybe it would have been fine, but they landed on a visual identity that's we're going to lean into the heavy metal portion of this, that funny, that humor, not that it looks humorous, but it's humorous in context, that is water, and we're going to stand out in that way. And our message and our thing, we're going to be clearly about, stop plastic and help the environment and whatnot, but that's not going to be part of our. So yeah, I think that's a good example of like set the stage so that your message has a place to be heard, or your other personality traits, but don't try to force them all up on the stage at the same time.
Like if you were to personify Liquid Death, like it would look like a hardcore rocker who you would not just point out as being an environmentalist, but that is a value that person holds, even though it's not how they present themselves.
Yeah, you don't want to build an identity that's going to conflict with another main personality trait, where it's like, if we're going to sound this way, we're going to do business this way, we're going to communicate this way, don't do something that's going to seem like a disconnect, but you don't have to necessarily incorporate it all prominently. You pick the thing that's the best platform to build on for all personality traits. And easier said than done. I mean, it's obviously case by case basis, and like I didn't just provide some formula that's a 3-step plan to building an identity. There's nuance to it and stuff. But we were trying to do that basically with one of our projects and trying to fit. And someone's like, well, it doesn't really reflect this part of it. But then we're like, but it looks good, and it would make sense if we didn't incorporate that element. This still looks like a brand that could be that. It could be that thing that we're talking about, and we actually wouldn't like the visual identity if we lean too much into that personality trait. Have you ever had a kumquat?
All right.